Hey guys, it's Chris at the Ultimate Recycler. I'm in my home workshop this evening and we're about to have a look at this National Panasonic 2-band radio cassette recorder. This was dropped off to my shop in e-waste, but then the lady contacted me and says it has sentimental value. It used to belong to her mother and it's not working, and she said I can't justify keeping things that aren't working, but if you can fix it, I'll buy it back off you. So, alright, I thought might as well do a video on this. And if you're watching, hi Deb, we'll see how we go here. So, it appears to be in cosmetically good condition other than being very dusty. And it's got some normal scrapes and bumps from years of use. A little bit of paint splatter on the cassette deck there. But, you know, it's not damaged in any way that I can tell. There's no cracks to the casing. So, sit down and we'll go through this process. You're discovering it just the same as I am, and we'll see what we can find out. Now, I don't even know what's wrong with it. I didn't ask Deb what the problem was. She just says it's not working. So we'll go through some basic tests and see what it does. Now, the first thing is National Panasonic cassette deck. There's certainly no CD on it. I would expect that it dates probably to the late 1970s. I will look up the model number soon and we'll get back to you on that. And I can remember having a similar one when I was a young bloke in the 70s. So let's have a look for a start in the battery compartment. I always like to check this because sometimes I have batteries left in them and it makes a hell of a mess. Alright, so there's batteries in it, but the good thing is it doesn't look like it's corroded. So we'll take those out and I'll have a bit of a look. Alright, looks nice and clean. That's good. Alright, so I don't know if those batteries are any good or not. And I didn't get a cord with it, so I will have to find a cord. It's a fairly standard input there. It's not quite the figure 8 one, it's actually a square type one, and the pins are slightly different distances, so I'll see if I can find a cord, and we'll plug it in and fire it up and see if we get any radio or whether the cassette works. We'll just do a bit of an evaluation before we start pulling it apart. So I'll just check these batteries. I can't actually find a cord here that fits the unit. I'll have to have a look when I get back to the shop tomorrow. But we'll test the batteries and see if they're any good. Positive to the top. And we've got our meter set on 0 to 20 volts DC. And I'm not sure, I think you can read the display there. It's less than 1 volt. Now when you're checking batteries like this, they need to really show over 1.5 volts on the meter because there's no load on the battery. If it measures something like 1.4 volts, you might think, oh, it's almost good, but the battery voltage will drop away very quickly if it's under load. So a good battery is going to read well over 1.5, or at least 1. I usually have it that if it's not over 1.55, I consider it's no good. Better put these the right way around. Yeah, so it looks like all these batteries are totally flat. So I'll put them in the bucket to go out to the e-waste transfer station. One shouldn't throw batteries in the rubbish because of the nasty toxins and metals they have in them. We don't want that getting into our landfill or our water supply. So alright, batteries are no good. I can test the radio with a DC power supply onto where the batteries go. So we'll hook it up that way and at least we can test it tonight. Okay, I've wired this up to the negative battery terminal, and there was 5 1.5 volt batteries in series, which gives a total of 7.5 volts, and that's the positive there. I always like to use the red and black test leads because then we know which is negative and positive. We've got our power supply here, so we'll fire that up and we'll turn the voltage up to, we'll go up to 8 volts. There we go. Alright, let's have a look at the radio and see if it runs. So the first thing we'll do is switch to radio. That's good, that's AM. Sounds like it's going to work fine. Lots of stations there. Good reception, and that's just with the internal antenna, so that's good. We'll go to FM. Sounds great. Got the normal FM hiss. We've got to put the telescopic FM antenna up and see if we can get a station. Alright, down the dial a bit. Perfect, sounds good.
McDonald was there and juggling it, fell towards the advantage of the ruse though. McMillan to McDonald.
Even got the footy on. So there we go. The radio works beautifully. In fact, it has pretty good reception there. That's good for an indoors. So perhaps she meant the cassette player doesn't work. So we'll just eject that. And oh yeah, we can. It was a bit stiff. Looks fairly clean in there. Let's just push play. Alright, that's promising. The spool's driving quite well. Often on these older units, bit of a hum there, I don't know if that's normal. Often on these older units the rubber drive belts have perished and broken and the cassette decks don't work. But that sounds good as far as the mechanics go. Forward. Yep, that works fine mechanically. I'll have to find a cassette and we'll put it in and see if it actually plays. Back in the shed tonight, we've got a cassette. I found one at the shop, Johnny Cash. So I'll put this in and see if it's going to work. Now these ones, the play heads are at the top. Play. Alright, we've got that bad hum still, which is through the circuit because the volume adjusts it. The cassette, oh yes, it is turning. So I think we can vaguely hear Johnny there in the background behind the hum, so something's going on there. So the cassette's playing, and we do have a faint noise in the background behind all that nasty hum. So it is actually playing, but we've got an issue with that rather annoying buzz hum through the speakers or the speaker, and it happens, I noticed, even if we just do rewind. We're getting that noise. So we'll have to investigate that. There's clearly an issue there, but as far as the radio goes, this unit's great. So, all right, I'll do a bit of checking. I'll find out exactly what year this is, and we'll pull the back off and see if we can solve that that noise issue that we've got. Okay, back to this radio job today. I've done a bit of research on this model. It appears it's a early 80s, 1981, 1982 vintage, and I did a bit of checking on this background hum that we're getting, and apparently it's likely to be noise through some poor connections in the switches. Now it's very dirty on top, as you can see, and I did notice, and I'll play it again now, we still have that hum. The tone control does play with it a bit. The volume doesn't, that's okay. Quite often volumes are very crackly on these old things from the same reason they get dirt into the pots. This tone does play with it, but if I go back to radio, that's just off channel a bit. I'll go to FM maybe. The tone control does still play with it a little bit, so I think there's a bit of dirt in there, but that's not the reason for our hum. So one of the suggestions I saw on a forum actually was to try a blank cassette in there and actually record, and then alternate between record and play, and that operates a switch underneath that may well be introducing this hum through poor contacts. Now I couldn't find a blank cassette, but I found this old one which I'm unlikely to ever play, Glenn Miller. It will be fine to use, and those of you that aren't familiar with cassette tapes, To be able to record on it, we need to put some sticky tape over these little spots here on the tape. And when you buy blank tapes, they have pieces of plastic in there so that you can record. And if you want to then save your recording and prevent it from being taped over, you break those tabs out. It's a little sort of protection system. Those of us who grew up with cassette tapes are well aware of that. So I'll put a little bit of sticky tape over those, and we'll try the record play function a few times and see if it affects this buzz. Okay, let's swap the cassettes over. We'll put this one in. Now we'll push play for a bit. We should be able to play whatever's on it still. Just make sure those spools are turning. Yep, so it must be in the right way. We'll cue it forward a bit. And I can't quite hear if there's anything playing in the background. That hum is very oppressive. Alright, so we'll see if we can record on it now. So we'll stop and press play and record. And that should be recording. There's a recording light on there. We actually don't have the hum, interestingly. So now I'll stop it. Go back to play. Hum's still there. Let's rewind a bit. And play. Still got the hum there. So we'll try recording again. So it's recording. We'll just make sure those spools are working again. Bit hard to see in this light. Yes, they're going. And we'll stop, rewind a little bit, stop, play. Interesting, we've lost our hum. That's good. Play. The hum's still there. I don't know if it actually recorded me speaking or not. No, the hum's not there, it's just very faint. That's good. So we've lost the hum, which is great, but we don't seem to be able to play anything on this cassette now. So clearly there's something going on with these switches. Let's just try record one more time. That's recording. Stop. We'll just rewind again. So we've lost the hum on the rewind and the fast forward, which is really good. So it must have been coming from this switch, but we can't now get it to play. Oh, there we go. Partially. There you go. Definitely dirt in that switch. So that's our problem. It's nice to diagnose that. I'll now pull it apart and see how accessible that switch is. Whether we just try and spray a bit of contact cleaner in there, or whether the switch can be perhaps dismantled to a degree and cleaned out. But that should fix the problem, and then we'll have a fully operational unit. So now it's time to get this thing apart and have a look at how complicated the switch is to get to. Now that's got the screws undone. Now there's times when it's nice to have a magnetic screwdriver to pull these out, and we can magnetize this screwdriver with I've got a magnet from a microwave here, and if we just wipe it along the metal down the same direction, what we're doing is we're aligning the subatomic particles. I'm not sure, whoever wants to explain it in the comments, it'd be most welcome, but we don't really need to understand why, but it does work, and that makes it nice and magnetic, which is beautiful for removing these screws. And it's also good for reinstalling them because you can actually just guide them into the hole nicely. Now, magnetic screwdrivers sometimes can be an absolute pain. And you can demagnetize a screwdriver by a similar process. Rather than having all the whatever is aligned the right way to give it magnetism, we can go across. Notice I'm not putting the magnet back and forward, I'm just going the one direction. And that won't completely demagnetize it, but it's done a pretty good job. In fact, that's pretty well no magnetism at all. So it's handy to have it magnetised sometimes, and you now know how to demagnetise it. Anyway, back to this radio. We'll get inside now. Now, as these were long screws, they didn't so much hold the back on, but they hold the front on. So I've disconnected, I think, everything we need to. There'll still be a speaker wire, as you can see. So we can't unplug it, it's soldered on direct. There's also a dial string here, which we don't want a tuning string. We don't really want to muck that up because they can be a pain to get reassembled in the right way. But that's all good, we won't have to disturb that. And oh look, the speaker's actually unplugged from the board, so that's handy. Rightio, so we can move that piece aside. And now we want to look at what parts we need to address as far as cleaning goes. Now, our tone control was the one up here, which was a little crackly. The volume wasn't too bad. And that one there is the main selector switch. So seeing as how they're pretty accessible, we'll get some contact cleaner into all those. This is your little internal loop antenna for the AM radio, which was really good reception actually for such a little antenna there. Now, the mechanism that works the play and record won't actually operate because there's no cassette in there. It probably will go to play, so that's play. And then stop. Let's put the cassette back in because I think we can do it without the door. There we go. So now I can press record. And you can see it operates this little lever back down on the board here. So that's where our dirty terminals or connectors will be that are causing that hum. Because when we went to record, that made the big difference. Probably because this unit probably hasn't recorded for decades. And because those contacts hadn't been used, it was setting up a bit of a interference or arcing or whatever through, basically just through inactivity. So we shouldn't need to attack any of the mechanics on the tape part because it's purely a mechanical operation there, as you can see. And the electrical part is in this long switch on the printed circuit board. So we'll take that board out and we'll have a look at how best to get into that switch and clean it. Okay, I've undone all the screws that held the board in. I've unplugged various wires. It's actually a pretty nice thing to work on this. Everything unplugs and there's plenty of room. So they're all unplugged. The only thing I couldn't unplug was there's a microphone here that just went up to a little bracket, so that's fine to sit on top of the board. And this other wire here goes under the cassette controls and it runs to the little LED indicators there. Now they were mounted in a little plastic bracket that just unclipped, so that should actually drag out from underneath those controls. Okay, so it should come out pretty easily now, unless I've forgotten to undo a screw. There we go. I've had to remove the knobs too from the top. And if we can get this wire out, there we go, beautiful. Alright, that was easy. So now I'll have a better look at this switch and see how best to clean it up. Okay, now I'm going to just spray some contact cleaner in this switch and work it back and forward for a while. Because the unit was so easy to get into, if it doesn't work or if it plays up down the track, it'll be okay and quick and easy to get back in and have more of a look at this switch. I'm hesitant to unsolder it off the board or to actually start dismantling the switch because you know, if a spring goes flying or I lose a clip or something breaks easily because the plastic's got a bit old, then we've got the dilemma of probably not being able to source another switch, and it may be expensive, and then we'd have a long wait even if we can get the part. I'd rather just get some contact cleaner in here and it should fix it up fine. Probably be a different matter if this was a really expensive top-end unit and it was really complicated to get into this switch, then you wouldn't want to have to do it again. But I think the contact cleaner will free it up. The fact that we got rid of the hum really just by using it once tells me it should be fine. And these other pots here, we'll get some cleaner in those as well. And then we should be pretty alright just to put it back together. There's that main switch, the selector switch. So that would seem to be operating well, but we might as well give them all a spray and then we can put the thing back together and hopefully it goes. We can then listen to some Johnny Cash for a little bit perhaps. Switches are cleaned up, right to reassemble. I figured I might as well just clean up a bit of the dust from around the areas while we've got good accessibility, and where the switches came from at the front and the controls, good chance to clean those off a bit too. And then we can reassemble. For those wondering what I'm using to clean up the case, I find this Armour All does a really good job. It kind of has enough of the solvent effect to clean up the stains a bit, and then it leaves a really nice sort of sheen on the plastic, and the toothbrush just helps get, like, obviously round in all the gaps. And this one has little mouldings, like a little channel around there, and of course it was always going to fill up with dirt and dust, so the toothbrush gets that out. There was a couple of paint spots. I've just used a bit of metho and got most of them off. I'm not going to scrub too hard because I don't want to take any of the artwork off, but that should clean up quite well, and it'll look a lot nicer when it's assembled. And here we are in all its sparkling glory. It cleaned up really well, this. I got all the paint spots off. They come off quite well, and they always look so much better when you take the time to clean up all the buttons and around where they go, and having them all dismantled made it really easy then to clean them up. So it's probably the only clean it's ever had in its life, but it looks really good now. So I've got it all together, no problems. It went together very well. I haven't tested it yet, so hopefully we're right to go. We'll give the power supply some power. I haven't found a cord for it, by the way. I didn't have one with the right square plug, so I'm hoping that the previous owner, Deb, still has that. Alright, so we have the power. Let's go to radio first. Make sure I haven't done anything wrong. Volume. Got a bit of a crackle there. That's just interference from the workshop lights. Yep, there's some stations there. Let's go to FM. Put the antenna up just a little bit. So where are we going? We should have a station down here somewhere. There we go. Now the antenna's not even fully extended there. The tone still has a little bit of a crackle in there, but that's not bad. The volume doesn't crackle at all, so that's good. Alright, more importantly, does the cassette work? So, as I said, it all went back together very nicely. I did clean the heads just with a little bit of metho, and all the rubber belts, the drive belts and everything looked okay. So there we go, let's play. And I think it's at the start of the tape. We don't have the hum, so that's excellent. We'll cue it forward a bit. There we go. Oh, this is the Glenn Miller one. We'll stop this. I can't play music for too long on YouTube due to copyright reasons. But we'll pop in Johnny Cash and see if he sounds okay on it. How's that? That better do. Anyway, we've got really good noise out of that without any hum, without any crackle. Remember when we pushed rewind, we had the hum. We don't have anything now. So beautiful. That's completely fixed. I'm very happy with that job. The switch seemed to clean up pretty well. I put a lot of contact cleaner in there, so it should stop any humming happening again. I'm sure Deb can now happily play all her old cassettes and jive around the kitchen. Alright, thanks for watching. I did say she offered to buy it back. I will probably charge her $30 just to cover some of my time. I'm not doing repairs as a business, and I've got a video out of it which I'm pretty happy with. I would normally probably sell something like this in this condition and fully operational for 50 to 75 in that range. So I'm happy to just take 30 for some of my time, and I'm sure she'll be rapt to have an old family favourite back. Alright, we'll catch you in the next video. Bye.